I'll be completely honest with you guys. I have little to no memory of Link's Awakening as a kid. This game dropped 3 years before I was born, and someone who grew up with the graphically powerful masterpiece Ocarina of Time and Majora's Mask, games like Link's Awakening and Oracle Seasons and Ages were just plain ugly to me. Not only were these games just ugly, I couldn't figure out how to solve the puzzles for the life of me. Fast forward to when I started high school, and by then you would think, alright, maybe he'll give Link's Awakening another chance. If he's a Zelda stan, he should at least give these old games a chance. And I did. But once again, I couldn't get over how ugly these games were. I really couldn't get past Link's Awakening just because the sprites, the enemies, the dungeons, it looks so horrendous. Like, I really think you had to have a really good imagination to enjoy playing that game when it first came out. But now, we finally got a Link's Awakening remake. And if graphics were the only thing holding me back, I really have no excuse now. Hey guys, welcome back to the Pank Brothers. I'm Simon, and today we're going to talk about the newly released remake of Link's Awakening and my first impressions of it. Let's start with some background information on Link's Awakening. Originally released on the Game Boy in 1993, Link's Awakening was supposed to be a port of Link to the Past for the Game Boy, and soon became an original title that honestly feels like the genius of Link to the Past, but on a smaller scale with a lot of unique factors to it. When I mean unique, Link's Awakening really doesn't follow the traditional Zelda recipe. It doesn't have a Triforce, it doesn't have Ganon, it doesn't even have Zelda. It's the most misleading title in the Zelda series. Now this is just my assumption, but I really do think the crew behind the game figured that if they're going to make a GB game, they might as well try to make it as different from the regular formula as possible, just to see how well the audience would take it. If the audience didn't take it well, they knew that moving forward for the 3D games like Ocarina of Time would have to follow the same formula they always followed. If it did do well, which it did pretty decently okay, then a game like Majora's Mask would also sell really well. So overall, Link's Awakening definitely seemed like a successful title at the time. However, you fast forward now, and this is probably one of the least talked about Zelda games. Along with Oracle Seasons and Ages, no one really ever talks about Link's Awakening. From the art to the gameplay itself, it's not really a fan favorite. I mean, just look at the pages from the Arts and Artifacts book. The style in the book just looks very boring. I know it's supposed to be the Link to the Past Link, but it somehow comes across as more lifeless. And then this design itself doesn't even carry that well over to the game because it was on the Game Boy at the time. So everything just really looks mismatched. You should feel bad for existing. But man, you look at this remake and everything is so beautiful. If this game came out originally for the Switch instead of the Game Boy, it would make so much more sense. The translation from the art style to this actual game is so one-to-one, parallel, beautiful, creative, just, I love it. I love this art style so much. Just look how goddamn cute Link is. He's so goddamn cute. Not to mention a lot of the music from the original game translates so well, if not even better on the Switch. The songs sound so great remastered. Not to mention they also have little bits and pieces from the original game in this new game. For example, in the menu, selecting an item and equipping it has the same exact sound effect from the Game Boy games, which is really cool. Now, obviously, I can spend hours talking about how beautiful the game looks and how presentation-wise it is one of the most gorgeous Zelda games by far. But honestly, that is not my main takeaway from the first impressions of this game. What I thought was most impressive about this game is the difficulty of the game, the puzzles that create said difficulty, and how said puzzles are not just present in dungeons, but are required to be solved to actually progress throughout the story. Let me explain further what I mean by that. And to further explain it, let me introduce the map of Link's Awakening. The map in Link's Awakening feels small, yet because of its size, it's not that hard to discover progression and avoid getting lost. The small map in Link's Awakening also encourages you to talk to as many people as possible because they're honestly right in your general vicinity. There's no Hyrule Field where you go on riding Epona for miles without talking to anybody. Everything around you has something to interact with or somebody to talk to. Kind of like Breath of the Wild, where even though Breath of the Wild has a massive map, everything in some sort of way or aspect is interactable with. And the same thing kind of applies to Link's Awakening, except in this one, it's more of talking and side tasks. And even though the side tasks may seem small at first, they actually lead to the progression of the story. For example, there's a moment in the game where you have to play a crane game to get a Yoshi doll, to then give to somebody. That sounds like a very small side quest, but in actuality, that Yoshi doll becomes a ribbon. The ribbon then is actually needed to be given to a Bow Wow or Chain Shop, whatever they're actually called, and then that results in you getting dog food. The dog food is then given to the gator at the shores of Koholint Island so you can get bananas. The bananas are then given to the Kiki monkey so they can make a bridge so you to get to Koholint Castle. The Kiki monkeys also leave behind a stick. Once you're in the Koholint Castle, you have to collect all 5 golden leaves, so they give back to a soldier who used to be in the castle, who then gives you the key to the dungeon. On the way back to the dungeon, you can see someone trying to fiddle around with a honeycomb on a tree. You use the stick to help him bring the honeycomb down, and then he gets swarmed by bees, resulting in you getting a honeycomb, which I, at this point in the game, still have no idea what I'm going to use it for, but I know it's going to come in handy. That was like 7 small tasks I just listed. That all seem like side quests, but they actually progress the story and make you move along and solve the puzzles that results in progression. And if the map was as small as it is, you couldn't do any of this so easily or discover this stuff easily. Imagine if the map of Link's Awakening was the map of Breath of the Wild. It would take forever you to realize that the stick you got from the monkeys over in one castle applies to knocking down a honeycomb all the way on the other side of the map for somebody trying to knock down a honeycomb. But Link's Awakening is so short and simple that you see everything around you. And it's beautiful that puzzles lead your progression because, let's be honest, in most Zelda games nowadays, everything's hand-holdy. From the beginning, you're told you have to go somewhere, and then there's someone who constantly reminds you of where to go. Yes, there's the owl in this game that does that for you, but the owl is really subtle. It doesn't tell you anything too specific besides go to the prairie or go to the waterfall. It's up to you to decide how you want to actually get the hints to go there, or if you don't even want hints, to figure it out yourself. I can remember the last Zelda game where I really did not get this little help, and it's making the game so much more fun and interesting for me. It's so refreshing to the point where, here's an example. I just beat the first dungeon in the game, and I'm walking through the first village. And I see that there's a commotion because the Bow Wow Chain Shop pet was stolen by a bunch of moblins who went to Tal Heights. I look at my map and realize, Tal Heights is kind of a distance from where I'm going. I don't really need to do that. I'm headed to the swamp. So my logic is, this is not my problem, it's a side quest, I'll come back to it later. I head to the swamp, and long behold, there's a bunch of veins and obstacles in my way getting me to the dungeon. So then I think, how am I supposed to get through this? I think and realize, wait a minute, this is my problem. The Bow Wow Chain Shop actually helps you get into the dungeon. And if I don't do that side quest, I can't progress the story, which in itself is a puzzle. Or the 5 golden leaves example I just mentioned a minute ago. I really thought those 5 golden leaves were just something optional, like a piece of heart or an upgraded sword. But no, without that, you can't even get the key to go to the 3rd dungeon. Every small little thing around this island is part of the bigger puzzle, and I can't think of a Zelda game that really does that, which makes this game so much more fun, engaging, and actually challenging. There's moments where I have to scratch my head and think, what the heck am I supposed to do here? Also, at its core, Zelda games really circle around item collection and utilization, and usually they do this around dungeons. However, Link's Awakening does this really well outside dungeons. The game subtly puts treasure behind obstacles in your path throughout the whole game, or shows you a path you have no access to on the way to a dungeon, thus making you have to write down on your map pinpoint markers where you saw certain treasures, or just remember areas where you think I should come back there later when I have an item. For example, I remember going to the Dream Realm to get the Ocarina. I couldn't get the Ocarina because there's a bunch of rubbery tent things in the way, and I had no idea how to get through that. I only had the rock feather and a bomb. And then I beat the 3rd dungeon, and in the 3rd dungeon, you get the Pegasus boots, which allows you to pierce a bunch of those weird rubber obstacles inside the dungeon. Make me realize, I now have a way to go back to the Dream Realm and get that Ocarina. The game does a really good job of showing you this stuff. The whole time, if you're not paying attention, you can easily slip up. I have a bad habit of not paying attention to that many Zelda games when it comes to puzzles because of just how easy they've become. I sometimes skip dialogue or just ignore a whole tutorial because they're just mundane and easy. I just play for the whole beautiful aspect of the Zelda lore. But now I'm actually playing for more than just lore. I'm playing to actually test my mind, which is something so new and refreshing. The final thing I wanted to cover in this first impressions video is the dungeon editor. It is terrible. It is such a letdown. The dungeon editor essentially is just a way for you to make dungeons based off rooms from dungeons you already beat. Why would anyone really want to do that? I don't care about making a dungeon that has 2 rooms from the first one and 5 rooms from the second one and 3 rooms from the fourth one. Like, how is that fun for anyone? That there's no really sense of creativity there, or really something to really spark some imagination in your mind. It's just you rearranging stuff you already done. There's no fun in that. Nintendo really blew it on that one. They could have added something so special there. I'm hoping maybe there might be DLC soon that allows you to change more than what they've already offered in the dungeon editor. But as of right now, the editor is a total waste of time, and I do not encourage you to spend any time on it. Just play the story for what it is, especially if you've never played Link's Awakening before or remember playing it like I did. Overall, this is a fantastic remake. I know the remakes of Wind Waker and Twilight Princess were kind of 50-50 with some people, because a lot of people like me who are Zelda fans loved it, but people who are not huge Zelda fans thought it was just a waste of time because it was small graphical changes. This is more than just graphic changes. This honestly feels like a reawakening of Link's Awakening, no pun intended. Especially because it's a game from 1993. How many of you actually played the original game? This is such a great game to pick up if you've never played it, or a great game if you actually want to test your mind out in a Zelda game for once. Overall, my first impressions of this game have me giving it a 9 out of 10. I know that's really high for a guy who's only beat 3 dungeons, but I can only see this game getting better and better. The dungeon editor is the only thing preventing me from giving it a perfect score. I'm having so much fun, and honestly I can't wait to go back to it after this video. So those are my thoughts on Legend of Zelda Link's Awakening, the remake on Switch. Please comment below on what you guys think about the remake so far. Do you agree with me? Do you not? I really want to hear what you guys think about it. Please share your thoughts, leave a like on the video, and please subscribe to the channel. It really means a lot to us. Until next time, see you guys.